Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Terrence Tang, Chips Technology Group. Looks like it's 11 o'clock now, so let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining our second part of our three-part series on using Teams. Today, we're going to talk about how to master chat-based collaboration with Microsoft Teams, just really a fancy way of saying what's the best way to communicate with internal members of your team and also external members. Just quickly, a little bit about Chips. We're a managed services provider. We provide technology consulting and technology services to our clients. We focus on making sure that our client technology is secure, is functional, and their employees are productive. We've been serving the New York market for about 26 years, and we are a Microsoft managed partner. So something that I didn't mention in the first part of our webinar series, that's actually pretty important because only about 4% of Microsoft partners are managed. That basically means we've achieved certain goals and we're on Microsoft's radar, and that usually translates to us getting to work with them on some pretty cool initiatives, and we're usually first to market with a lot of their features and offerings. So having said that, again, my name is Terrence Tang. I'm VP of Sales at Chips. What that basically means is I work with a lot of new clients to help them define their strategy and make sure that what they're looking for are either services we could provide, or if we can't provide them, I try to help them to point in the right direction. Also on the call to help us is Stephanie Memos. Say
hey,
hi,
everyone.
So she is our marketing coordinator. She also helps us, besides being a marketing coordinator, she helps us run all the webinar series. There's a lot behind it, so really thankful for her help. So quickly, also one other thing, thank you to anyone that was on the first part of the webinar and mentioned that that I was a little bit hard to hear. I changed my setup. So hopefully today it's a little bit better. Please let me know if that's not the case. And having said that, we'll begin. So just quickly, what is Microsoft Teams, right? So Microsoft Teams is a collaboration platform that helps your team stay together, stay organized, and have conversations all in one place. It really is a fancy way of saying it's the main hub. You kind of go into the office or you log into your laptop, you launch Teams, and the theory is that you should have access to all your data. So where we see Teams as being beneficial, we boil it down to 5 features. So chatting and instant messaging, I have it highlighted because that's what we're going to focus on today. Resource, project, and task management, creating, sharing, and editing, and finding content, calendars and meetings, calls and conferences. So if you missed the first part of our webinar, we touched on a high-level overview of all the different features. And at the end of this webinar, we will give you the link on how to get both the past webinar and also to sign up for the next one. So why is Teams important? So this is a little bit of a diagram of what we're finding when we meet a new client. So usually data is all over the place. There's different applications. There's security concerns. There are compliance concerns. So, for example, dispersed resources, just having a lack of a centralized hub to store all your data, right? So that's, where's the latest file? It might be in your email. Someone downloaded it. It's not the latest on the network. There's a lot of issues around that. So disjointed collaboration and file sharing. Inefficient co-authoring and authoring of files is usually a big indicator. That typically means it's hard to collaborate, right? So, if you've used Google Drive or Google G Suite on a personal level, you'll know that the web technology is such that you should be able to have multiple people accessing the same file and collaborating together. It was not possible before, with the traditional Microsoft Office suite, but it is possible now. Also third-party apps, right? So this is where security and compliance comes in. Where are users saving files? How are users sharing files with external parties? What happens when a user is no longer part of the organization? How do you make sure that all the files are no longer accessible to them. So those are some of the challenges that we believe Teams can resolve. And then lastly, solutions for a mobile workforce. Really simply, it's the way you work when you're not in the office, or when you're in the office. And some people, as you know, some employees might never be in the main office, right? So it's just to ensure that everyone has the same experience. That is something that Teams brings to the table. So just in summary, what can Teams do for you? Mobile worker support, like I said, making sure that everyone inside, outside, whether they're just temporarily outside the office like we all are now, to folks that were never in the office, just making sure everyone has the same experience. External collaboration, the easy ability to work with whether it's your clients, third parties, your providers, your vendors, having a platform to collaborate. Enterprise security, so Teams is built on top of the Office 365 platform, which has a huge amount of security behind it. That's going to be another webinar, hopefully down the road soon. But I'll cover that more in detail at a later time. And real-time teamwork. So basically, like I said earlier, collaboration is key now. So a lot of us are, especially now, not in the same location, and having access to the same files, being able to work on it together is a huge plus. Just as an example, Stephanie and I, Stephanie is she's working from home, I'm working from home, and we collaborated on Teams to build this presentation. So that's a quick overview of Teams. I'm going to walk you through actual live walkthrough. So like I said earlier, today we're going to focus on messaging and chatting, right, within Teams. So this is the same environment that we used last time. This is an imaginary Microsoft company called Contoso. There's really, what I want to show you is a couple of things right off the bat. So this is the app, right? So like this is, I launched Microsoft Teams when I'm ready to start working. So this is the app, but I also wanted to show that the browser version. So this is just a browser. You can get to it from anywhere. Has pretty much the same look and feel. So I think that's critical, because oftentimes, if you might, for whatever reason, want to use a browser, right? Whether it's like maybe you have a thin client laptop, or you're not in front of your personal computer, you could use any computer to access your data. Obviously, you want to make sure that it's secure. You want to make sure that there's two-factor authentication. I mean, there are a lot of security measures you want to put in place before you allow that, but it is possible. So with Teams and chatting, so there's really two ways to do it. So the easiest is just if you click on the new message here, new chat. Let's say I type in, there's someone in the company called Lydia, and I can send her a direct message. This is known as a one-to-one message. So these are private. You can add people to it, but unless you add someone to it, this message will be between me and Lydia. So like I mentioned, you could also, besides adding someone there to Lydia's message like that, you can actually just do a new message where it's Lydia, Adele, Deborah. Just basically, you could pick as many people as you want. You could also put groups of people in here, and then you can send the messages like that. So that's group chat. One other thing that I thought was pretty cool that I wanted to show is you can actually have in your contacts, you can actually go and notify when available. So let's just say you wanted to talk to, and I keep picking Adele because she's the first on the list, but let's just say you really wanted to speak with her. For whatever reason, you need to collaborate with her or something, and her status is busy, right? So right now, everyone's offline. Like I mentioned, this is a demo tenant, so these users are not real, or maybe they are real. They're somewhere in the world, but as far as our purposes, they're not actually logged in. However, if Adele was a real person and it showed her status here. Maybe it says I'm on a call or I'm busy based on her calendar. You can actually have it set up to notify you when Adele is available. So I thought that was a pretty interesting feature to show. So that really is so simple. I mean, I think it took about 60 seconds to kind of show how to do it. That's the chat feature of Teams, but where Teams really comes in and where the power comes from is from Teams and channels. So this might be a little repetitive from the first one, so I'll go through it quickly. But basically, Teams is the collection of folks, whether they're internal or external, that has a specific purpose, right? So for example, here we have the Mark 8 project team. So this is the team of folks that is responsible for launching the Mark 8 project. So if you take a look here, you can actually manage your team, right? So these are the members in the team. So these are all the people in the company. These are the owners. The owners simply means they can make changes within the team itself. Also underneath teams are channels, right? So basically, so within this team, for example, there's a design team, there's a go-to-market team. Now, something interesting here, it came up as a question from last time, is can you limit the amount of people that has access to channels? Yes. So basically, if you take a look here, this is a private. There's a lock here. This is a private channel. So what you do, you can actually see not everyone that was part of the Mark 8 project team is a part of the private channel. Every other channel, because it's not private, by default, anyone who's part of the Mark 8 project team is part of it. But this specific private channel, only members that are specifically added are in there. So the reason why this is important is because, like I said earlier, the real power of Teams comes in with channels and teams, right? So the reason for that is you do a lot of chatting here. So I'm gonna pull up my favorite team, research and development. You can see here, there's a few things that I wanted to show. So you can see here, there's all types of posts, right? There's a calendar meeting. So basically Nestor posted in here instead of emailing saying, hey, every Monday 2:30, the team is going to hop on a Teams call, right? Then there's also Lydia posted a PowerPoint, right? You can share images. This looks like code that's not working. So Word document, Excel document. So something else that was interesting here is you can, for example, let's say I posted this earlier, right? So I'm going to say the deadline is tomorrow, right? So everyone who is a part of research and development will get a notice that says the deadline is tomorrow. Something interesting is you can actually create a poll. Let's just say I was concerned about whether or not we would hit the deadline. Your question could be, will you make the deadline? And then option one is, so let's say it's actually automatically going to suggest the answers. So send it. It actually shows up. It shows up in the chat. And what happens is, as soon as it's done, you can, oh, by the way, you see these message notifications. This is because I have notifications set up for this channel, right? So whenever someone's post a message, you can actually get different notifications here. You can set it up for different, whether you want it in your banner, your feed, only in your feed. You could include all replies. So you could actually say yes or no, and then when you submit the vote, it'll actually automatically calculate. Obviously, the more people that you have in your organization, the more useful these statistics could be. So that's something that I wanted to show you. Another is just you might be part of teams that you don't need to see. So what you could do is actually a couple of things. You can actually drag teams around. Like if I wanted to, I like Mark 8 being on top, but if you're in human resources, you might want to have human resources there. Also, you can actually hide the teams, right? So like if I don't want to see human resources for whatever reason, I could just hide it. And hidden items just wind up on the bottom. They don't go away. You still access it. It's just not, if it's not something that you use on a regular basis, I suggest kind of putting away, because after a while, what we're seeing is as the organizations use Teams more and more, they are going to have more and more teams created, more and more channels, just a lot of stuff going on in here. So how do you add a file? So real simple, you can actually just hit the paperclip, which everyone should be familiar with. I'm going to pick something recent, so usability, test priorities, upload a copy. You might want to say something about that, hey, please review. So instead of sending emails out where everyone's reply all and you're kind of looking at your phone all day in between meetings trying to reply, this is the central place where communication happens. So everyone's response will wind up here. It won't be, if someone replies to one person by mistake, or someone forwards it and there's lost chain of communication. This keeps it all centralized. One other thing, chats are persistent. So chats, we can actually set up chats to be anywhere from 30 days to never delete. So anything that you post on here, theoretically, could stay up here for 30 days or forever. You could also change it so users do not have the ability to delete their messages. There are certain scenarios where you might want or might not want them to be able to delete their messages. By default, it allows the users to delete. So if I delete this, it'll actually just say messages and delete. One other thing here is very important is the @ sign. So I think I mentioned this the last webinar, but the @ sign is going to be your best friend. So you can call people out, Pradeep. You can specifically ask people, hey, what do you think? And that way they'll get notified that you're trying to reach out to them. So that is super important. You can also do a few things within specific posts. So let's just say Adele's post here is super important to me. I can actually save this message, and I'll show you later on how to get to your saved messages. You can actually also mark it as unread. So that way it's like, oh, it's kind of like an email, right? Like I use my inbox. If I read something that requires action, but I don't have the time to take care of it right then and there, I leave it as unread so I know to get back to it. I think it serves a similar function here. So more on that later. I'm going to show you how to get to the saved messages. Another pretty interesting feature is if you take a look, you can just type, right? So let's just say I'm just going to type anything here. It's pretty straightforward, and Teams was designed to be that way. However, if you pull up the formatting tab, that's where you get a bunch of new options. So first is you can actually post an announcement. So announcements are, like welcome to the webinar. Right? So these are going to stay here. Welcome to the webinar. It's April 14th. And you can actually also set it up so whether you want everyone to be able to reply to it. The more people that reply, the more notifications will be sent out, or you can just have moderators reply. In this instance, I'm going to have moderators reply only. So that's that. Then you could use that for, if it's someone, a big announcement within the company, if it's someone's birthday or donuts are in the coffee in the kitchen. Also, too, is something interesting I wanted to show was the ability to post in multiple channels at once. So I'm going to go back to the deadline is tomorrow. And if you post to multiple channels, you see how I'm in the research and development channel. But if I wanted to alert someone in retail, for example, and I want to alert someone in sales and marketing, I can actually do that all at once. So if I do that, the deadline is tomorrow, and I put it here, I believe, it'll show up. It'll show up in all the channels that you selected. And also, too, interesting, if you pull up the formatting and pull up the box, it's pretty much like Word. I mean, it's not all of the features of Word. I mean, for example, the paragraphs are not as not as much. You might not have as many choices in fonts and the formatting, but it's enough. You know, it's enough to type something that maybe you want it to look a little snazzier than the typical layout. Something also interesting here too is, let me close this, so you can actually type, oops, the feature is not here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so something that's very interesting for, especially for us who maybe you know, don't want to have to follow up with someone, and if we post a message, we want answers quickly for whatever reason. So I hate using the word deadline, but that's the only thing that ever comes to mind when something is pressing. So the deadline is tomorrow, and there are a few options you could do. So you could do important. So this is a demo tenant. If it was not a demo tenant, you can actually, this third option, instead of just important, you can mark it as urgent. What happens with urgent is it will notify the user every 2 minutes for 2 minutes for 20 minutes straight that a post has been posted that they need to take it, that they need to take action on. So if I, you know, if I called out, I'm gonna say protein, or let's see, someone, Megan, let's do Megan, the deadline's tomorrow. And if this was an actual tenant, I would be able to mark it as urgent, and Megan will see every 2 minutes, she'll get a notification for 20 minutes saying, hey, you gotta take action on this, right? So that I'm gonna send it as urgent. So it also looks a little different, as you can see here. It's got the red and it's got exclamation mark. So different organizations find different ways to use it. You know, for me, I use it more like a chat feature. So if it's a chat feature, you know, it's usually like that I need an answer to something. So I tend to just limit my my exclamation marks. So you can also, oh, interestingly, you can also mute chats, right? So if you wanted to turn off notifications, you can, for whatever reason. If this, you know, you already answered this post, the deadline is tomorrow and you provided your feedback, but you know, there's 50 other people in your company, for example, that are replying, you can actually turn off notifications for specific chats. Just overall with chatting and with teams and channels, just be careful what you post. It is public, right? So, you know, if you take a look at this, I'll go back to I'll go back to manage the channel again, manage team. So everyone's in here, right? So whatever you post, everyone's going to be able to see it. So going back to finding, so the message that we saved before, how do you find it, right? So this is a command bar, they call it. So it does a few things. You could actually type in commands. You could also find things in here. So in here, for example, I put in my saved. So I've actually saved 2 different messages. One's from Deba and one's from Adele. Let's just say I want to open the one from Adele. It takes me to this specific message. And I took the action that I needed. I can actually just unsave it at that time. Should clear up from here. And then if Deborah's, I took action already, I'm just going to clear it up from there also. And then with any, like I showed, just in case anyone missed it the last time, with any, if, you know, with anyone that you're chatting with, if for whatever reason you wanted to, you know, just pick up the phone and or not pick up the phone rather, but just to talk to someone directly, or you can video chat, then you can actually just do it straight from the chat. One other thing too, almost forgot. So let's just say this is an important document, right? So someone posted it, you need to see it, right? So I'm gonna download it, and what you could do is I want to actually show. You can actually take documents that you use often and create a tab. So you can actually For example, you can create a Word, let's just say it's a Word tab, and you can post, you can actually post this file in there, or you could pick some other file, but everything was within SharePoint. So as far as finding a file wouldn't be an issue. And then this way you can collaborate easily with the different people on your team. So that's pretty much all of the different ways you can chat and all of the tips and tools. There's a lot to unpack here, obviously, but hopefully we showed you guys the benefits and the features of Teams today. I do want to go back to the slide quickly. So something that we are doing is, for anyone interested in Teams, we are offering a Teams workshop. So basically, we want to just get 3 things from the workshop: is getting insight into what applications are in use and how the team collaborates, figure out what's the best way to collaborate, and then work on a roadmap for successful implementation. So that would include everything from how do you chat internally to how do you collaborate with your external parties. Where are your files? Where's your data? What can we integrate into Teams? What do we, what are some of the things that we require some type of custom build? What are the things that are, there by that's just on the marketplace? So go through all that and basically understand enough about your organization to be able to make some recommendations. So that is something that we do want to offer. So next webinar is managing projects efficiently with Microsoft Teams and Planner. That's this Thursday at 11. That is where we're going to go take a really deep dive into how Planner is used. We use it extensively. We actually use it internally and to collaborate with external parties. And to register for that, you just go to go.chipstechnologygroup.com/webinar series. That also has any past webinars that we've done as part of the series. So the first one's up there already, and the second one from today will be up there at some point today. So let's, I think we've got a few minutes. Stephanie, do we have any questions?
Yes, so we had a few come in. So the first one reads, this seems pretty straightforward. How would you introduce this new way of collaboration to your team?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, the question reads, this seems pretty straightforward. How would you introduce this new way of collaboration to your team?
So great question. So typically what we do is, as part of the deployment, so 2 steps. So one is to understand the business, right? So like how are the folks collaborating right now? 99.9% of the time it's going to be a combination of emails, instant messaging, and phones, right? So we basically want to figure out, okay, where can we save time? So once we understand that, we'll develop a plan, and part of that plan is, as far as to drive adoption, would be to offer training. So there's video training, there's in-person training, there's also demos like this where we would build an actual environment that would mimic how a specific client is going to work, and we'll work with the users not only just for training purposes, but also to get feedback and just continuously work on improving the team's experience. So basically to drive adoption.
Great. A second question that came in, once a file is open, can you see who's working on it?
So not within Teams per se, but all files that are accessed through Teams is actually hosted in SharePoint. So within SharePoint, you will be able to do a few things. One is you can see who is working on it. 2 is you can actually turn on logging, so you can see all the different people that worked on it within a specific time frame. And then lastly, you can also turn on versioning. So by default, for example, you get 24 versions. So let's say me, Stephanie, and 5 other people working on the document, we all save it 3 times. The versioning should keep all the different saves, and for two reasons. One is mostly is to not lose data. So if someone overwrote a spreadsheet with the wrong formula, whatever, is still there, but also a little bit on compliance, just to say, have a trail that says, hey, Stephanie changed something on a week ago, and that shouldn't have been the case. It just have some accountability behind it. So
Question number 3 that came in. You mentioned a workshop. Who on our team should attend this?
it would be, I always recommend the heads of specific groups or teams, right? So for example, in your typical organization, you're going to have the C-level folks. So you're going to have the CEO, COO, CTO, right? Then you're also going to have a head of HR, a head of operations, potentially, head of sales, head of service delivery, like in our organization. We also happen to have a head of procurement. So different people who needs to run a specific team, they should all be involved. Everyone's, just from the few times that we've done it just recently, I without fail, once we get a group of people together from the same company into the same room to talk about collaboration, there's always feedback from different people that makes everyone else go, oh wow, I didn't think about that. So it's actually a great team building exercise too. Just from what I'm seeing when getting a bunch of people together to talk about how to basically better the company, right? Better improve communication and collaboration. So there's a lot of benefits that come out of it.
Thank you so much. So it looks like that's all the time we have for today. If we did not get a chance to answer your question, feel free to send Terrence an email at tang@chipstechnologygroup.com, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.